Hello and welcome. My name is Catherine Myers and I'll be the host for this TLC session, Playing to Learn, Incorporating Game-Based Learning in Higher Education, presented by Kimberly Luke. We are excited that you've joined us today to hear Kimberly's presentation. While Kimberly is speaking, the chat window will be closed and we will open it again at the end for you to ask questions and participate. Without further ado, please welcome Kimberly.
My name is Kimberly Luke, and for full transparency, I must admit that I'm no gamer. I played a little Atari as a child. I played a little Nintendo. But if truth be told, if you mention some of the most popular games on the market right now, I would have heard of almost none of them. So you may be asking why I'm giving this talk. I have fond memories of the early days of educational gaming in the 1980s when schools and Apple came together to put computers in the classroom. I remember well getting the opportunity to play Oregon Trail with another student as we attempted to make our way from Missouri to Oregon, all the while trying to make decisions that would improve our chances of making the trip successfully. These are fond memories for me. And when I learned that I could access games like Oregon Trail through the Internet Archive, I again steered my wagon west. In this presentation, I will examine the research that's been conducted about the effectiveness of game-based learning in higher education. I will survey the major initiatives to promote game-based learning and provide specific examples of games that can be used to teach learning objectives in a variety of disciplines at Ashford University. Let's begin by providing a definition for game-based learning. Daniel Harrow, let me move this so you can see it better. Daniel Harrow and Rebecca Clark, in their 2016 article, An Academic Home for Play, explain that game-based learning includes using video and online games to design or enhance learning experiences and to deliver instruction. Now, this is different from gamification, which includes basically introducing game elements into non-game scenarios. Now, gamification can use things like badges, points, or leaderboards. And it's a fascinating topic, but because it can be a presentation itself, I won't be discussing gamification during this session. Although game-based learning has not been studied or implemented in higher education to the extent that it has in K-12 education, there is a growing interest in the potential that game-based learning could have for colleges and universities. There have been a number of studies that have sought to determine GBL's effectiveness. A 2011-2012 study conducted at the Borough of Manhattan Community College of the City University of New York found that the more students enjoyed a lesson, the greater their gains were in deep learning, and that games did produce higher levels of enjoyment. In a 2016 research review of the use of GBL in undergraduate engineering education, it was found that GBL improved both learning and enjoyment. However, this study recognized that more research needed to be done because the measures for assessing the effectiveness of GBL varied widely among the different studies. Simulations are one example of GBL that has shown promise. Toolwire is a courseware developer that has designed more than 1 billion minutes of simulation games since 2011. It tested role-based simulations at 25 campuses with more than 1,000 college students and found that both instructors and students believed the simulations promoted deeper learning and increased engagement. Video games have also been used as training tools in business. A University of Colorado Denver business school study sought to determine video games' effectiveness in training. Dr. Tracy Sitzman, a professor of management, reviewed 65 studies and data from 6,476 trainees. Sitzman determined that those who participated in the video game training had an 11% higher factual knowledge level, a 14% higher skill-based knowledge level, and a 9% higher retention rate than trainees in comparison groups. Sitzman found that the motivational aspects of the games encouraged employees to play them repeatedly, and this led to greater skill mastery. Let's look at the qualities of GBL that researchers believe will make it an effective teaching tool in higher education. It is an active learning approach that can promote critical thinking. In a 2016 research report, the technology company Muzzy Lane explained that game-based scenarios can give students complex problems in which students can find solutions in different ways. So basically, they're taking different paths to the same solution. Game-based scenarios require students to analyze content, develop an approach, and react to the results of this approach. GBL can also help students develop identities as scientists, historians, or psychologists. This is very important, particularly in K-12 education, because it allows students to participate in real-world scenarios in a safe way. This is what James Paul Gee refers to as performance before competence. It can also allow higher education students to begin to develop a professional identity and internalize approaches common in their fields. And the wonderful thing about the games is they can make up for a lack of skill level in beginning students. GBL provides immediate feedback that allows students to assess the effectiveness of their approaches and make corrections. It also allows instructors to gauge student learning in time to make adjustments to their lesson plans based on this feedback. GBL reduces the consequences of failure. Students often can resume their game at the last save point, so the impact of failure is minimal. This encourages them to develop alternate approaches and strategies in order to gain different results. GBL also offers opportunities for students to work with others. Employers often want employees to be skilled at working in groups. Multiplayer games can provide this functionality for online students who are separated geographically. They can also foster the development of community in the online setting. GBL allows students to apply what they are learning in real-world context. It also helps them to see the relevance of what they are learning to their future career goals. And this is very important for adult students who want to see the relevance of what they're studying and who also want practice with the skills they're going to need for their career. Games have also contributed important research into real-world problems. One example of this is the online puzzle video game, Boulder. This was released by the University of Washington in 2008. In the game, players predict and design the structures of proteins in the hopes of better understanding how they work. According to Foldit's lead designer, Seth Cooper, humans have spatial reasoning skills that computers do not have. And he believes that games are a good way of combining the strengths of both computers and humans. And within 10 days, in 2011, Boulder gamers succeeded in accomplishing a task that scientists had been working on for a decade. They determined the structure of a protein that is critical for the multiplication of HIV. Scientists hope this information can be used to create antiretroviral drugs to stop the growth of HIV. Boulder gamers have also contributed to cancer and Alzheimer's research, and most of these gamers do not have a strong science background. In recent years, there have been a number of initiatives to promote GBL. On January 1st, 2014, the Higher Education Video Game Alliance was formed. Its mission is to create a platform for higher education leaders that will underscore the cultural, scientific, and economic importance of video game programs in colleges and universities. From the Alliance website, you can access an Entertainment Software Association graphic, which shows the impact of the video game industry. including the number and location of college programs in gaming. There are 521 in the United States, and the number and locations of video game companies in the United States. There are 3,090, and you can click on the map by state, and it even includes information about your congresspeople so you can advocate for game-based learning. The University of Wisconsin-Madison has established the Games Learning Society to conduct research on the effectiveness of GBL and then use that research to design games. The Games Learning Society has produced more than a dozen games that would be useful in a variety of fields, including environmental science, sociology, biology, and history. The Games Learning Society also holds an annual conference for educators, researchers, and games designers. The Center for Games and Impact at Arizona State University seeks to investigate, innovate, and cultivate game-infused solutions to society's biggest challenges. It seeks to explore the full life cycle of games, beginning with research and going all the way to assessment and optimization. It has acquired funding from a number of organizations such as the Gates Foundation and the National Science Foundation. Let's look at some ways in which GBL is being utilized, as well as some specific examples of games. As I mentioned earlier, GBL has been implemented much more extensively in K-12 education than in higher education. So for education students out there, there are many games available that they'll be able to use in their teaching. One example of GBL was designed for middle school students, and it's known as iCivics. iCivics was founded by former Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor in 2009. iCivics is based on the belief that civics knowledge is crucial for civil engagement and that each generation of Americans must be educated anew in civics. This just doesn't pass down from generation to generation. iCivics allows students to assume various government roles, such as that of a judge, a county official, a member of Congress, or even the President of the United States, in order to teach them what these individuals do. The games are available to play online. The iCivics website also contains resources to help teachers integrate iCivics into their curriculum. This is a screenshot of the game Immigration Nation, which teaches students how people can become citizens or permanent residents of the U.S. And it basically, if you notice the little boats at the bottom, you click on each one of those boats when you're playing the game, and it gives you the story of a different person who wants to come to the United States, and you have to decide whether they meet the qualifications that would allow them to come. On the iCivics website, you can find 19 games that generally take between 15 and 30 minutes to play. There's a couple of them that go over 30 minutes, but that's rare. More than 5 million students each year utilize iCivics, and this makes it the largest civics provider in the nation. Now let's look at some games that are used in college classrooms. Mentira is an augmented reality game used at the University of New Mexico to teach Spanish language skills. It utilizes a software called augmented reality and interactive storytelling, or ARIS, A-R-I-S. And ARIS allows educators to embed clues in specific locations. Second-year Spanish students travel to an Albuquerque neighborhood to access clues to help them solve a murder mystery. One of the goals of Mentira is to expand students' horizons by revealing the local context that language has. Students make choices about how to speak to virtual characters, and these choices determine how those characters answer. For example, the game teaches students how to adapt to the conversational styles of characters, such as addressing an older man politely. You can learn more about Mentira by reviewing its website. Now, the website is dated. It was last updated in 2011, So you may have difficulty finding it. I don't believe they're still working with that website, but it does give you an example of the types of technologies that are available, and augmented reality is being used in a number of games. Texas A&M University is also using GBL to teach art history. In March of 2017, Texas A&M signed a 3-year contract with the game designer Triceum to utilize Art Macinus throughout its art history courses. And this is both on campus and online. I would like to play the educational trailer for Art Macinus because it does a wonderful job of showing you many aspects of the game, as well as how the game can be incorporated into the classroom.
You must understand artists. To understand artists, you must understand where they came from. Welcome to a whole new way of exploring art history. An immersive experience that takes students straight to the heart of 15th and 16th century Florence. An image of an artwork can only show you the artist's work. But a game can show you the artist's world. As a member of the Medici, you are more than a wealthy banker. You are Mecenas de las Artes, a patron of the arts. What matters is not just the money you make, but your civic reputation and your standing with influential bishops and clergymen. To play as a patron of the arts is to understand where Renaissance art came from. This is Arte Macinus, a revolutionary new way to teach art history. In the classroom, students hear and see the artworks and their history. In the game, students discover what it was like to be a patron of the arts and explore the context behind the artists. Successful learning is reported to their teacher, offering an alternative means of earning class credits. Playing to learn, a completely new approach to teaching art history. Welcome to the Renaissance. Welcome to Arte Macinus.
Now, Triceum conducted a study about the effectiveness on Arte Macinus in the fall of 2016. And in this study, 173 students participated and spent 2 hours over 1 week playing the game. This amount of time would allow students to complete roughly half of the game. It generally takes 3 to 4 hours to complete the whole thing. And the results showed that 83.2% achieved success in level 1, 35.8% achieved success in level 2, 22% achieved 3, and 5% achieved success in level 4. So you can see that in the earlier portions of the game, such as level 1, students had really strong games, but they didn't use it long enough to finish the game and get the upper level. Now, Arte Macinus is not the only game that Triceum is using. Triceum has also designed a game to combat the rising failure rates in calculus classrooms. Now, the Mathematical Association of America has determined that national failure rates in Calculus 1 are nearly 38%. And Triceum's answer to this problem is the game Variant Limits. This is a third-person exploration game that uses calculus principles. The game addresses concepts such as finite limits, continuity, and infinite limits. In a study of the effectiveness of this game, 79% of students who tested the game recognized its effectiveness in increasing their knowledge of limits, and 76% found the game engaging. Another company to watch when looking for GBL solutions for your classroom is Toolwire. This is a company that has developed games and simulations for business, communication, medicine, and critical thinking. For business, Toolwire has developed 20 interactive role-based simulations for business topics such as business strategy, business communication, and human resources. In tests of the simulations on 25 campuses, both instructors and students agreed that the simulations made these topics seem more relevant and engaging and promoted deeper learning by allowing students to learn by doing. Toolwire's writing games for career readiness and student success also showed promise when they were piloted by 14 faculty members and about 1,000 students in developmental and introductory composition courses at community colleges in 2015. The results of this study were that 79% of faculty and 68% of students believed that the games led to improvements in the students' writing abilities. And more than half of the faculty, 64%, believed the games allowed them to manage their instructional time more efficiently. We've discussed several examples of programs by technology companies to introduce GBL into your classroom. However, I like to think of GBL as one tool in my toolkit rather than the toolkit itself. I like to embed short GBL activities that take students less than 5 minutes to complete. I think of these activities as providing increased interest for the material and targeting students with different learning styles. For instructors in the sciences, I highly recommend the University of Colorado Boulder's Interactive Simulations, or PET. PET contains simulations for a variety of grade levels, including university level, in physics, chemistry, biology, earth science, and math. Educators can establish a free account on their website, and instructors can embed the simulations directly into their learning management system, both eCollege and Canvas. They can put them in the discussions and the announcements. PET also has videos for instructors that explain the simulations, and this is really important because basically PET takes the view that the point of these simulations is for students to explore and to learn by doing. So they don't give any background instructions on how to do them. And so it's really important as instructors to watch these videos and see what different things they are trying to get across in case you need to mediate a little bit with your students and giving them some idea of how to proceed. Okay, this is an example of one of PET's simulation. It's called the color vision simulation. It's designed to allow students to explore color perception, including color subtraction and color addition. The students can choose between two screens, one with a single bulb and one with multiple bulbs. This is the one with the single bulb. This is also using a filter. If you notice, and you can't tell very well in this image, but there are little idea bubbles above the head of this woman. Basically, as she is seeing color, that idea bubble shows what color she perceives. So if you're doing white light, even though all the colors are coming at her, she is perceiving white light. Students can adjust the color of the light as well as the color of the filter. These simulations are extremely useful because they allow students to manipulate the variables and see how this manipulation impacts the overall perception of color. For example, and some students are surprised by the differences. For instance, if you add red and green together, they assume you're going to get a brown, like you would if you're mixing paint, but actually you would get a much lighter color. We've looked at the research into the effectiveness of game-based learning, identified the characteristics of GBL that make it valuable in higher education, and reviewed some specific examples of GBL products. I hope this presentation has helped you to assess the overall use of GBL in higher education, as well as provided you with some resources to explore integrating GBL into your classrooms. Catherine, if we could turn on the chat, I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Kimberly. Yes, we already have a question from Kathy Sorensen. Does Ashford have the capacity to develop such games specifically for our classes?
As far as I know, no. But there are some very interesting developments. Another you may want to check out is the game designer Muzzy Lane, Muzzylane. And Muzzy Lane did a huge study on how game-based learning can be used to help adult students. And they started out thinking that they were going to develop these whole courses where a game would be the entire course. And as they talked to faculty and they talked to students, they realized that neither one wanted that. That faculty in particular wanted specific things to come alongside them and to provide supplements where they needed it, like things about critical thinking or a game that taught APA style, so that you can plug them in where you need to in the curriculum. And so they just decided to develop their own platform that will allow people to develop their own games. And they've made that available on the internet. So you can play around with developing your own using their platform. You're welcome, Kathy.
I have another question that came in. It came in to me privately, so I will read it to you. It's from Sherry Ketchum. And it says, has Ashford been at all supportive of us developing game-based learning in our classroom? She would love to do it and is intrigued by the idea that students feel less like they are failing and then they can work in teams.
Yes, that's one thing that I really enjoyed. In Muzzy Lane's study, they actually looked at adult students and found that adult students really, if they got anything less than an A, thought they had failed. And the games allowed them to get used to failure a little bit. It lessened the importance of it and helped them to try new things and repeat in order to achieve mastery.